Welcome, everyone. Really excited to have Martin Roseman of Roseman's Remedies right here in Atlanta, Georgia with us today. Martin, how are you?
I am quite jovial today. That was one of my recent word of the day is how I try to get a word of the day in. And today has been highly abundant. I've been receiving and giving lots of positive energy, having lots of positive, conscious conversations.
Awesome. I love that. And you're in Atlanta, correct? You're still based in Atlanta. You're here in Atlanta.
Yes, ma'am.
Awesome. I just like for listeners, for viewers to know, well, but they don't have to be in Atlanta to get your stuff, but we'll get to that. So that the audience can get to know you just a little bit better. Tell us about yourself. Tell us what you do. I mean, I know what you do, but I love how you describe it. So
for the opportunity, Rachel, by the way.
For sure.
So I am Martin Roseman. I am a massage therapist, energy worker located in Atlanta, and that's my trade and profession. But I'm also a conscious entrepreneur, and I own a wellness brand, and we manufacture sustainable, eco-friendly products. And to us, the word sustainable isn't just eco-friendly, it's, products that are able to sustain and maintain for long periods of time the human body and the environment.
I gotta say, I remember seeing you post about that sometime during this strange quarantine Groundhog Day timeline we're living in. But you made a great point for business owners out there, especially that have a physical product that they're selling. I love that you extend that word sustainability and eco-friendly to literally every aspect of it, like what you're making, the process of even growing the herbs that go into what you're making, the packaging, how the packaging is going to break down. I mean, it's like you're just doing awesome stuff. So, well,
I really like the complexity yet symbolism of words, and we always have a certain we always think of certain things with certain words that just instantly get us triggered or relatable. And so when we hear the word sustainable nowadays, we really just think about this is eco-friendly. But the word sustainable is able to be maintained over a long period of time. And I feel as though that word can stretch over so many different things, because at the end of the day, we have a blog on our website, and it's called The Sustainable Self. And we called it that because, the most important organism in your life is yourself, and you have to be able to sustain yourself over the longevity of your life, and that's even why we went with remedies, because the word remedy has such a wide context to it. It doesn't really put you in a box.
I love that you gave yourself and your business space to grow and transform. And so real quick, since you mentioned the blog, so your website is at rosemanremedies.com, and is that where the blog is?
Yes. Okay, the blog. Awesome. Little page on the tab, you can click blog, and it'll be called The Sustainable Self. And we have a lot of cool stuff on there. We actually just did one of my creative director, Kaylee. She recently just did an article on biodynamic farming and the importance and interest of biodynamic farming. We have some stuff on caffeine, just anything related to sustaining life.
I love that, man. I love that. Well, you mentioned you're also a massage therapist, and I happen to also follow, I know you got a recent new healing certification added to your belt. So let our audience know, how did you get to where you are today? And did you always know that you were meant to be a healing artist?
Yeah, honestly, I've been blessed by God, the universe, source, whatever you choose to feel comfortable with, by having a very strong sense of self, not completely in like a strong ego, but just a sense of who I was meant to be. And at a very early age, massage called to me. Therapy called to me. I pretty much realized by fourth grade, like everything I wanted to be. And it was, I wanted to be a massage therapist. I wanted to be a business owner. and I wanted to be a psychologist. Like that's what I primarily would like to get my degree in, and something I've been like studying my whole life. And I was blessed with a father who was an entrepreneur, and he really instilled a entrepreneurial attitude into me. And it really showed me the value of the dollar. And I was able to maintain that happiness and the joy and interest in all those subjects for my entire youth. And when I was in high school, everyone, I would just randomly massage my friend to make them feel better, especially when I started going to concerts and things of that nature. And everyone's always told me that I would make a great massage therapist. And it was always something that was in the back of my head. But I didn't have the greatest of upbringings. I struggled a lot financially. My mother, she raised 4 boys, mostly by herself. And I wasn't.
Bless her. Bless her.
Yeah. And, we were definitely not the greatest of boys, but she really, she held on to making us men. And that was the strongest thing that I could receive from her. And I am the oldest of all those 4 boys, so I've always had this kind of chip on my shoulder, or this comparison of Atlas, that I'm holding the weight of the world for my family and for myself. And I actually didn't graduate high school. In my final year, I failed 1 math class, and it was 1 single credit that I was unable to make up. I couldn't do summer school because we weren't financially able to afford that. And the choice was go to school for an entire year to learn extra information, but really just need this 1 credit to graduate, or, just move forward in life. And so I moved forward in life. I decided to immediately start working as soon as I got out of school. And I would work up until the point that I decided to pull my trigger on massage school, because it took me 3 to 4 years after being out of school to really amass a certain amount of, wealth and personal comfort to feel the desire to move forward with going into massage school. And I would work, primarily as a server, because it was the quickest form to get money. And I was serving at 2, sometimes 3 jobs, working overnight. I actually worked at Waffle House and IHOP at the same time. And they were right across the street from each other. I didn't have a car, and I would ride my bike to work all the time in the winter and stay up all night at one job to work in the morning at another job, and then nap for like a whole day.
So you're working for competitors, but yeah. Hey, you gotta get the money.
Yeah, it was pretty funny because they knew about the fact I was working for both of them, but it was very taxing on my body. I definitely, I fell into bad habits working in the food industry and just staying up all night and having the requirement to stay up all night. I wasn't eating the best food. I was eating at the places I was working because it was affordable. And there came a point in my life when I was working at like UPS, Starship, and Outback all at once. And I just felt this overwhelming pressure that if I didn't make a decision in my life at that moment, I was going to be stuck working 3 jobs, never really progressing. And I've always had plenty of entrepreneurial ideas that I've never pulled the trigger on. And I just came to the point where I said, I was talking about going to massage school for about 2 years with people. I mean, it's like, I'm not.
Okay.
So I'm a doer. So when I really realized how much I was talking but not doing, I made the decision to immediately enroll in school. I got my GED, which I was also slightly uncomfortable with. And it that did affect my ego in a way that I was like, oh wow, I thought I was going to graduate high school. I don't have the degree, but I've been out of school for a little while. Am I going to be able to go get my GED and actually pass? But I did. And then I enrolled immediately into massage school, and I spent a year there. And during that time, that's when I finalized all my hobbies and all these ideas that I've had. And it all came together with my massage practice, and Roseman's Remedies was born.
That's a wild, I totally feel you with the entrepreneurial ideas. And I have like a whole note in my phone dedicated to ideas and inventions because they're like always coming through. But it says something to, one, pick one, and two, to actually, like you said, take action, to not talk about it, but to do it. And well, my next question was actually going to be, were you always able to support yourself fully from your healing practice, and have you had side gigs? I think you already shared quite a bit about that journey. So actually now I'm kind of curious, what do you remember, like what, aside from you realizing how long you had been talking about going to massage school, was there either a friend or a mentor or a book or something you heard? Like what was, and there may not have been, it may have just been a moment that finally like took all that talking to action?
To be honest with you, I was hit with a pretty massive smack in the face when taking plant medicine.
Oh, so you were, I totally get, okay. So that happens. Hey, you know what? It clears out the cobwebs.
Yeah.
It like lets us into different avenues. So, and that's the beauty of plant medicine. So, okay. So you got the smack in the face you needed.
Yeah. It really put into context that, I just wasn't living the life I wanted to live. I wasn't living into my fullest potential. I wasn't living the life that I was, claiming to live either. I wanted to be a healer. I knew I wanted to be a healer, and I wasn't enacting that role that I was destined to be. And it all came, I don't want to say crashing, but it just all came down on me at once. And I was feeling slightly inundated by the pressure of it, but I acclimated to it. I really took on the lesson itself, and immediately shifted gears into living the highest possibility and cutting out as much toxicity as I could over time, whether it be people or food or content I was taking in. I just started, really fine-tuning the vibration that I was really trying to bring in and let out in my life.
Well, I mean, so it sounds like basically you realized you weren't being your authentic self. You were wanting to heal yourself and heal others, and yet working in these unhealthy environments and draining your body so that makes sense. When we're not in our authentic selves, when we're not in our body fully, then it's really quite hard to feel, what's the word I'm looking for? It'll come to me later. But so through all that, I love all the stories. I mean, I don't love them. I don't love to hear about the struggle, but it's important. That's one of the missions of Vibe Hive. With this being a small avenue of what Vibe Hive is doing, we want to rid the world of the starving artist. And there's just so many, and when I say artist, I mean the creative and the healing artists. And that's what you are. You're a healing artist. And I mean, every little product that you make is art. So it's beautiful. And with that, comes artists learning how to take, like you talked about, all these visions, all these ideas, and bringing it into the tangible, grounding it into something physical. And so through all that, is there one specific, the toughest times you can remember getting through as your business? So you shared some tough times getting to the point of actually being like, okay, I'm going to be a massage therapist and I'm going to have this line of remedies. Has there been, I'm sure there's going to be more tough times, but up until this point, what's the toughest time you can remember maybe of growing to the point you're at?
Getting people to see and feel the importance of our product. It was very, I knew how important and necessary our product was for the market to shift gears of what was typical. We're not the atypical company and or product. And it took some waiting before people really saw the potential of it, because in the society we live now, a lot of people focus on the cost, whether it be, the consumer thinking that a cost is too expensive for the value of a product, and whether a business owner wants the product lower so that they can make more profit off of it. And, our product is it's luxurious, and the feel and the intent is not luxurious in the aspect that only certain people can have it. It's a product that everyone should and could have. And convincing store owners and people to purchase this product in a market that already had lots of products took a good bit of time. My self-esteem definitely hit quite a bit of a low, because I was so high energy on the entire conceptualization of it after school, during school. And then, we didn't really take off for the first 6 months of me putting in all this money and work into the product. And I hit a little bit of a lull, but I was reading, I think I was reading the seven habits for highly effective people at the time. And in the book, it really shifted my focus of my own energy, what I was attracting. And it took a lot of fairly esoteric concepts that we're all familiar with and put it in a more functionality version of it, because the author is a speaker who pretty much would teach businesses how to maximize efficiency.
It's Stephen. Is that Seven Habits is Stephen Covey, right?
Yes, Stephen Covey.
Okay, awesome.
So he took all these esoteric, energetic concepts and encapsulated them into business performance formative concepts. And I understood both of them. And so seeing it written in a way that I could really utilize, not just for myself personally, but for my business, really took me to the next level. Honestly, I have become highly effective since really reading that book and taking in those habits that he suggests, because I took them out of just my personal life and into the professional life. And I started genuinely attracting people in my life that saw the value of our product. And once people started seeing the value of our product, it's been tumble effects where we just gain momentum and gain momentum and gain momentum. And we still have lulls every now and then, but as for now, people really see the importance of our product. And most importantly, people trust our product. That was a big thing. It's my second time actually talking about this today, is the trust of the product. Nowadays, people have such a high distrust of products because corporations and companies have shown us that we can't trust them. In the 90s and early 2000s, we were, just living and purchasing whatever, and everything was going to work out for us, especially in America. And then the more we found out that companies have been lying to us about this and that, a large amount of distrust was built in products, especially in the CBD market, where there's a highly, what's the word I'm looking for? It's very much so saturated with fake products. People not getting what they're claiming to be putting into the product. And that amount of distrust in the value of the medicine, we had to really overcome that and really show people. We probably gave away a couple of $1,000s worth of free product in my first couple of months, really just letting people actually see how beneficial it was, because seeing is believing, feeling is believing.
Well, and it's tough too, because sometimes with the healing, if it's not, we live in such a immediate now society that hence the down, or what's, it's an interesting place to be, because people want this like immediate pop something, and they want the easy. They want the like, pop this pill, do this thing, you know, suck in this, whatever it is that they're looking to do, because of our ability to pick up a phone and call someone at any time, anywhere, reach someone. It's this very fast-paced, immediate world. So, well, that's huge that you were just willing to, one, invest in your business on the front end the way you did, but that's business. I mean, you have to be prepared to not make money at first, I think. And then to just be sharing your products, but that's how you build, like you said, that's how you build trust. You trusted your product enough to know, and we would hope that the owner trusts their products, and you trust the value and what you're putting out there and the medicine that you're putting out there enough to give it away, to say, I know that you are going to heal by using this. I know this is going to give you the effect that you're looking for. Use it, and then you'll get it. And I mean, regarding trust too, since we're talking about Stephen Covey and 7 Habits, did you read his son's book, The Speed of Trust?
No.
Ooh, okay. That's a good one. That's a really good one. So Steve, I'm pretty sure 7 Habits of Highly Effective People is by Stephen R. Covey. And then his son isn't a junior like Stephen Covey Jr. So it's pretty sure the full is Stephen M. R. Covey. But if you look up Stephen Covey, Speed of Trust, I think you'll dig it. And it talks all about trust as an inside out thing, and I love diving into that we could have a whole podcast on trust, but if we don't trust ourselves, and I think that's what we're getting at in the world today, the lack of amount of people that trust themselves, truly trust themselves to make the right decision for themselves, to make the right, and it's getting in alignment with the self that then expands out. He calls it an inside out thing. So, but that's, I mean, you know, and you're willing to show your consumers who you are and what you do and what you consume and what you're about.
Yeah, I fully believe in transparency. You know, I am Martin Roseman, so I am the face of the company. I'm not the sole owner. I have a partner. He's 40%. Thankfully, he trusts me enough to make all the big boy decisions, and we have such a healthy relationship that we don't really get into arguments and things of that nature. And me being the face of the company, I've really, really prioritized what I'm providing for people as well, what I'm giving people in terms of my advice, my intent, and my listening. And you know, even being a massage therapist, I've had to learn like tips and tricks on how to really give people that, you know, immediate gratification. Like we do range of motion, and, you know, sometimes people move their shoulder and it's like this, you know, and then after a massage, we're like, okay, let's try this range of motion again. And they see that they can move their arm fully back, and they subconsciously get that immediate gratification, and they're able to really see the benefit. Because, you know, if with wellness, health and wellness, it's not an immediate thing. You know, nothing immediate is long lasting, and it doesn't have that value associated with it because it was immediate. And we really have become very used to, again, taking this pill or doing this one thing, and we're going to immediately get the gratification from it. But that's not how health and wellness works. It's a practice. It's a continual regimen of health and wellness that's needed in order to provide the most value for our for our body. And
sorry, keep going. I was going to say, well, it goes back to one of your core values of sustainable. You know, popping something that's going to provide something immediate, if it's not sustainable, if there's side effects, or if it affects something else, you know, it goes back to that. And it's shifting someone's lifestyle to allow it to be sustainable throughout their life. You know, it's, you know.
Yeah, I've really had to shift my entire perspective of my life and myself as an organism and healer to really provide the best healing and product for others, and not going towards that immediate gratification, because in my youth that was that was what I wanted. I wanted immediate gratification. If it didn't make me feel good right then and there, I probably didn't want to be involved with it. And I had to really learn that a lot of things that gave me immediate gratification were unhealthy for me. Like, first and foremost, my body didn't react positive to it. You get to the point where you just become numb to the everyday proceedings of your body functionality, and you just ignore it, and you don't really realize how many things that you might be interacting with are not, your body's not comfortable with, especially when it comes to food.
It's true. That's true. Well, quick question. I mean, business-wise, because you mentioned you have a partner, I'd love just maybe real quick if you can share, especially because I know there's going to be other business owners that are also artists that perhaps feel like they are their brand. What was it like having, was a partner involved always from the start, or was that a decision later on?
So I had, he's kind of like a mentee, honestly. And I have a really strong friendship with him, and he was able to really learn from me, and see what I was doing to better my life, and start bettering his at the same time. And he saw, he's always wanted to be in the same business platform as me. And so when he saw me really putting forth the dedication, he wanted to join. And at first he just wanted to join because it seemed like a really good idea. And he quickly realized how beneficial this world was. And he, jumped on a board and let me lead the ship into the ocean, and really beneficial. I also had to do some growing because, first off, I didn't want to call the business Roseman's Remedies. I felt it was a little egotistical. But my name sounds really good and it flows off the tongue really well. And then I didn't want to share it. I was kind of apprehensive to the concept of sharing my hard work. And I really had to get detached from that entire concept, because two is better than one. And that's just the way things are. I feel like most people come to a disagreement with business partners because they don't set the standards, rules, and regulations at the beginning on how things are going to go. Yeah. And also, there's a level of trust. I posted that me and my business partner don't see eye to eye all the time. We have varying differences, but at the end of the day, our vision is so united. We see soul to soul. So we really see the maximum potential where we want the business to go together. So even if we don't see eye to eye on a particular subject or decision, we're able to look beyond that and see the bigger picture. And that's what it overall means to us, is the bigger picture. The company is a family, first and foremost. I've always wanted it to be that way. And it is that way. I really make my employees feel like they have a say in every action. I try not to make too many decisions without communicating with them. They don't have shares, but they have shares in my heart. And so they have a share of the business in that essence.
Yeah. Well, and I love that about, you'll even share little clips of y'all going on your Roseman family hike, your team hikes. And like, you've got, you're keeping your team healthy and living what your business is about. So, well, before I get into the last few juicy questions, I do want you to share maybe briefly what exactly, we haven't even touched on what your product is. I'll of course share it in the show notes and all of that, but especially since we are in Georgia, where it's been an uphill battle for the cannabis industry and all of that. Tell us a little bit about your actual products. You've talked about massage, but your physical products, and if it was an uphill battle of any kind.
It was an uphill battle. So initially, I was very interested in food, honestly, more than topicals. Topicals came very later. I have been a huge proponent and advocate of cannabis since I first tried cannabis in high school, it really shifted my entire perspective of life. I was chronically depressed, chronically fatigued, and I had a very poor appetite, pretty much non-existent unless it was like junk food. And I would go most of my time without eating. And, you know, my body just was not in alignment with itself and or healthy. And when I first tried cannabis, it was the first, you know, my first like experience with herbs, I guess, outside of, you know, normal cooking herbs. And it was a very life-changing moment for me. And I immediately knew that this was something I wanted to be about. My first interest was in edibles. I was really very interested in food. I was like, oh my God, you can and that's where I learned a lot of my like extraction methods. I didn't even realize I was going to be extracting other herbs and infusing other herbs in my life. I was like, oh my God, you can put cannabis in food, you can put it in butter, oil, this, sugar, etc. And I just played around. And, you know, I kind of like got a reputation for being in the kitchen during my high school years. And I always thought that was where I was going to go. And so when I first started seeing CBD, my first concept was food, like smoothies, edibles, things of that nature. Very quickly after I even started conceptualizing the idea of the business, CBD became illegal to put in food. And that was pretty much like, okay, here's all this work that I just invested in like research, and just threw it out the window. Yeah. And when I was in massage school, I knew I was going to have to be utilizing certain products with massage. And that's when it clicked that I was going to be putting CBD into topicals and things of that nature. And, you know, being a small business, a small minority business in a large corporate field, predominantly like Caucasian, it's been rough getting people to associate themselves with our product over these larger companies who have more money and who have made it difficult for us. For instance, Georgia has some of the strictest cannabis laws. COVID has pretty much thrown the entire platform for that and or plan for that out the window. But we were supposed to have medical cannabis grown in the state for the first time this year, and we were supposed to start having hemp grown legally in the state this year. I really haven't heard much like forward movement and momentum on that. But the requirements for it was you pretty much had to be a billionaire to a millionaire to even apply for the licensing for marijuana. And that they really made the market so thin because of probably backdoor lobbying and things of that nature. So, you know, at first when I was like, oh, they might have medical cannabis or they might have hemp, and like quickly reading the laws, I was like, okay, out the window as well, because I'm not a millionaire. So that it's been very difficult being a small business in the cannabis industry, because like the laws change quickly and very frequently on what's allowed and what's not allowed. And so you really have to be kept up to date. For instance, like California, they lost most of their small businesses when they transitioned to recreational, because they changed the laws. And during they pretty much were playing, we're going to release everything bit by bit by bit by bit. And so they phased out a lot of the small businesses who couldn't afford to relabel their products. You know, oh, you know, you have this one thing wrong with the 5,000 labels you just ordered because we just changed the law this night at midnight. And so now all the 5,000 labels you have are trash and you have to order 5,000 more. And that was a very difficult thing for those businesses to keep up with. And the stringent requirements, and a lot of them got phased out, and mostly big businesses stayed. So that's been an uphill battle for us. But it's thankfully opened my entire perspective to herbalism as a whole. I've grown a deeper connection to all plant medicine and all plants, and I've been able to utilize synergy with plants as well. And so we've been able to expand and are expanding into other products. So right now we started with CBD because I've always wanted to be in cannabis. That was my whole picture. I wanted to be in cannabis. I saw CBD as my way into cannabis. But I chose Remedies, and our like LLC is Roseman's Botanicals, because I didn't want to be boxed in to CBD. I always saw like myself kind of picking up, you know, maybe fabric cleaner or house cleaner, remedies as a whole. And so although we initially started with the CBD brand or the CBD products, we've been able to get people comfortable with those products. And slowly we're starting to integrate more herbs, more herbalism, more like variety of like wellness content to our brand and getting people comfortable with that. I also see that medicinal mushrooms are the future in terms of like health and wellness right now. And I see the industry being equally, if not bigger, than CBD and cannabis, because of the variety of the medicinal mushrooms. You know, you really do get more medical constituents from the different strains of mushrooms out there, more so than you do get from cannabis, because you're really isolating certain chemicals. But there's a plethora of chemicals in the medicinal mushrooms that you want. And that's something that I see us getting into like end of the year, early next year, as we get people comfortable with the transition of us getting products, new products in. Because again, going back to that of trust, you don't want to have too many products, too much variation all at once, because you want people to trust that you're good at producing those products before they are able to trust that you're good at producing other products. So it's always best to start small, become really good at least 1 to 2 things, and then progress from there. Because if you're so focused on, and initially I had a lot of ideas on what I wanted to infuse, and I quickly fine-tuned that to a few things. But if you're, you know, always over here and always over here and always over here and always over here, and you're not going to be moving at a more linear fashion with your progression.
Well, and it's not to say you can't eventually, like you're talking about, now you're beginning to expand, but you have to, I mean, Vibe Hive is discovering that too. We've had talks about us. We had like 11 balls in the air, and we're currently focusing on mindfulness and community. And within that, there's lots of arms. But I appreciate you sharing that kind of uphill battle that you've had, and the clarity on, one, the importance of small businesses to our economy, but just how the CBD or the cannabis industry it can provide some beautiful help and support for so much, but it itself can turn into a scary corporate world as well. And I mean, I'm curious, just given, and if you're not comfortable talking about it, but I feel like we know each other, and you're a small minority-owned business. You're in the South, and you are a Black man working with cannabis. So like, I give you props, because you just do it. Like you said, you just take action, and your stories, I love when you were working with our little Vibe Hive art camp, and the neighborhood that we're in, these kids, it happens to be a network of kids that are used to food on the table. They're supported. They go to school, they go to college, and that's what they do. And so to have someone share with them a different story and a different perspective is just so important for the youth and so important for our future. And business owners that are also healing artists like you, we just need more of it. So
I've definitely had, you know, growing up in the South was difficult. And just a little clarification, I'm a fairly mixed minority. I'm like minority on minority on minority. I'm Puerto Rican, Native American, and Black.
Okay.
And so it's been like very rough for me to find identity in that. You know, I predominantly look Black because of my skin tone. But being African American specifically, you find it hard to connect to anything because there's no lineage back there. So when I discovered I was Puerto Rican, my mom told me at an early age that, you know, both my mom and my dad are Puerto Rican, Black, and Native American on both sides. It's kind of interesting that, you know, they continue that into me and my brother. And I had to find an identity in that. And I really felt early on that I wasn't connecting to my own culture in any way. I was really attaching myself to just middle class culture, middle class capitalistic culture. There's a proper way to do this. There's a proper way to do this and this and that. And like acclimating myself to that and not really seeing that there's a broad spectrum of it. And I struggled with the like identity crisis for quite some time before I really became comfortable with myself as, you know, a minority of America, and prideful in that, in a sense. And there's definitely been moments where I've had to really push myself to prove that my product is superior than others. And a lot of it does have to do with like my upbringing, my skin tone, and things of that nature. And, you know, I never wanted to be just considered my product's either good or bad because of my race. My product's good or bad because of the product, and it's good. But I even now, you know, I do go to places and they want to buy my product based upon my skin color, and I really have to inform them that, you know, our product is good. Not, you don't have to support me because of like just the state of the world right now. And it's very topsy-turvy navigating through that. And the, you know, even like I'm like, my name is technically Jewish, you know, the Roseman is technically Jewish.
Yeah.
Maiden name. My father's name is Ocasio, which means like time or you know, like occasion. And so most people, when they see my name, like Martin Roseman, they don't even like conceptualize that I'm going to be who shows up. And
That's a good point. That's a good point. As a of Jewish descent, yeah, I was like, well, that sounds like a Jewish name. Maybe he's the tribe.
Yeah, it's my last name is a very confusing. It's not even technically my last name. My mom's mother was married to a man with the last name Roseman, and so she got it. Her father's last name is Cruel, which is really unattractive, honestly.
Oh wow, yeah, good choice on the branding. Nice.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I found all that out. I was like, oh, I'm gonna stick with Roseman.
Well, I appreciate you getting vulnerable in that unexpected question. And I'll be honest, my battery's about to die, and I don't want our listeners to miss out on, you've provided a whole lot of advice already and tips, but what is, if you had to give other artists, both creative and healing artists, who might be struggling to make ends meet right now, you know, they want to grow their artistry and shift from surviving to thriving, what is the one piece of advice you recommend?
The importance of community, and really just trusting community, because like you said, you have to trust yourself, and it takes a village to truly raise a child. And what I found was that by being a good person throughout the entirety of my life and truly like wanting to do good, I've developed such healthy relationships with people who support me and continue to support me. And that is literally it's made all the difference in my life, you know, because the first people who supported me were my friends.
Yeah.
And I supported them as well. You know, I know that some of my friends were struggling, so I did give them products as well. And I wanted them to raise their vibrations in order for them to attract more financial wealth and, you know, to be more well off, just like I was. And so I really had to commit to taking care of myself first and foremost, trusting myself and trusting my community. And right now I find that, you know, a lot of people live in communities, but not many people have communities. It's not as though we truly purchase and or associate ourselves with many of the people we live with or live near. We just kind of live with each other for safety. And so I had to really shift my perspective of community and who I wanted to be communal with. And you know, like the word vibe, like who do you want to like vibrate with together?
Yeah.
And I really started changing my own vibration and attempting to change others. That's when I saw the most beneficial and monumental change, because as a starving artist, at one point, it was very difficult for me to focus on the present and not be caught up in the past or the concept of the future. But the present is the only time we have to make action. Everything else is inaction and thought and conceptualization. And so when I started living in the present and living with my community, I made the most monumental changes. And also adaptability. Some things you really got to take yourself out of yourself, because some things that you want for yourself is not necessary. And we see that with Corona, a lot of businesses were unsustainable. For instance, like massage and being a hairdresser, a cosmetologist. A lot of people realize quickly that the world doesn't need 1,000 or 1,000,000 of those, where you could really be a group or a collective of healing artists and things of that nature with a stronger purpose. And having like that purpose really shifted.
So you were telling us the beautiful tip, if you could give people or artists, healers, one piece of advice, and I loved it. You were talking about the importance of community and you were jumping in a little to adaptability. So I'll give you a chance to wrap that up.
Yeah. So, Corona has showed us what is and what is not sustainable in terms of capitalism. And not that we all have to go with the grain of capitalism and or even join that, but as an artist, being adaptable to the needs of the consumer. So your business should always be, something that aligns with your heart and your soul, but it should always be a needs-based business. So when you think about your community, when you think about your neighbors and people around you, what do they need? Because maybe the product you're producing is something you want or you need, but is it what everybody else needs? So businesses should be functioned on a needs-based business. And that's what you see like with the high amount of water bottle sellers in Atlanta right now. There's a need for water when it's hot. And so they're really fulfilling the need of their community. Maybe even a little bit like overabundance, but the mentality is still there. Businesses should be needs-based businesses from this point forward in order to truly maintain sustainability and to overall become profitable and to get rid of the concept of the starving artist is perform to what the community needs. And, it may not be something that you always want to do, but as long as it's something that aligns with your soul, that's not a bad thing. We don't always want to, wake up and brush our teeth and do all the like kind of monotony of the world, but it's something that we still do because we also want to be hygienic and we also want to go out in the world. And so you really have to figure out what the community, what the world, whether you're looking on a macro or micro view, what is needed and how can you fulfill that need. And you'll really see a turn in profits. You'll see a turn in attitudes when you start fulfilling people's needs. Because the world, although we are a collective, we've been taken away from that mentality. And we're just now getting to the point where we're really seeing the importance of being a collective. But at the end of the day, some people need pet food for their pets, quality pet food. Some people don't have pets. So you really have to fulfill the needs of who's your primary market. Who do you want to be your customers? Who do you want to, feel the feelings of your art and your practice and fulfill those needs? And
I love that. It's
when you're fulfilling needs, you also fulfill yourself. Like you're putting in so much good energy into those people that it's going to come back to you, and you're attracting it.
One, I love it. You're basically this, how can you serve better as a business owner? And that's the Twin Hearts meditation that we practice regularly. It's a service-based meditation. And the cool thing about service, like you're just talking about, the more, you put out there and blessings that you send out, and the more you're coming from a place of service, then you make space in your mental, physical, emotional, financial body to receive. So it's like, I love that. It's a flow. Well, I'm curious to impart a little more wisdom onto our listeners, as well as insight into Martin Roseman as a person. What does a day in your life look like as yes, a business owner, but also a healing artist? And one of my favorite questions to ask people is to get them to focus in on it. What are your 3 non-negotiables? Like, no matter what, these are the 3 things that we're human, we're talking your ideal day, but wouldn't it be great if we're all living our ideal day? So what are the 3 things that you must have in your day every day?
So I typically start my day off waking up early. And it's not that I always get out of bed early. The thing about life is consistency. Consistency is exponential. And, as long as you're getting 1% better every day, you're going to keep getting better. You're working in a linear fashion. If you're working staggered, it's going to take you a little bit longer to get there. If you're doing like 10% one day and then 0% the next day and 15%. So 1% better is the goal every day. And I feel comfortable with that as long as I got 1% better. But I typically start my day early in the morning, and that's around like 5 to 6 o'clock, because I have to make time for myself. That's the first thing I do in the morning, because I know if I don't incorporate time for myself, then I'm going to get the snowball effect where I'm running around doing a bunch of chores. I get sucked into cleaning. So I have to have a clean space too. So time for myself in clean environment, because clutters my mind as well, and I get very distracted in my environment. So I'll start my day with waking up early, and then I spend time by myself, whether that be meditation, working in my garden. Like I said, I do a word of the day in the morning. I kind of write out my goals as well for that day. And then from there, I just get straight into it. And my days can be pretty sporadic, because as, a healer and a boss, I'm like, sometimes I have clients, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I'm going to meet stores. Sometimes I'm going into the office. And so there's not like a specific task that I do for work, but there is a specific increment of time. I try to stop work by 5 to 6 o'clock. Because the mental fatigue of the day at that point, we spread ourselves thin. A good book to read is The Organized Mind by Daniel Leviathan, or Levitin, I can't remember. And he's a psychologist, I believe, and he breaks down the capability of the human mind in terms of memory and organization, and really how to maximize the best from your mind, because we like to believe we have these advanced minds, and they're really fairly primitive. Okay? So we put a lot of faith in our memory and certain functions of our brain that are not completely there, that haven't been designed for the complexity of the average life of the human being. And so when I started reading that book, he really laid out ways to maximize my brain potential. And you think about your brain like a computer, you have a certain amount of RAM on your computer. So it's a certain amount of actions that can be happening all at once. And your brain has the same thing. So usually the fatigue we experience midday is because we've been driving in a car, which involves multiple senses. We've been talking to people on the phone, doing a bunch of things that takes up a lot of brain power. And so by the midday, our brain's about here. And so at the end of the day, the best thing you can do for yourself is, either sitting on a couch and enjoying, like reading a little book, just enjoying life. Very simple tasks. I come home and I want to stop doing work. I just want to live a simple life. I just, whether it just be me sitting on a couch and vegging for a little bit, or me eating some food. Cleaning as well. The end of the day is an excellent time for cleaning, because it doesn't require much mental capabilities. It's really just, I'm doing a task. And your body can handle that at that time. And then I like to end my night with like just pure relaxation. You want to end with your brain on the most positive note, because you're going to carry that forward into the next day. And so my top 3 would be, the things I have to go with would be time for myself, cleaning, and ending my day on a good note. Because I want to start my day.
I love that. Those are great. And what a nice little peek into a day in your life. That's great. Well, to wrap it up, especially since you focused a lot on the word community, you know, Vibe Hive is a mindfulness community, and we are committed to the physical, mental, spiritual, and financial health of healing and creative artists. That's, you know, what we're about. That's what we love. And as a community that has, you talked about adaptability, we were ready to do so many more in-person events than we had last year, and then Corona. So we have shifted to more online. But the word community these days does, for lack of a better phrase, kind of get thrown around. So if you're able to, could you describe what community means to you?
Yeah. So I honestly feel like the word community it doesn't encompass the word that I truly prefer to use, which is tribe. Because in a tribe, people have purpose. And I think that's the thing that modern communities are missing. You know, you reach out of your community for business and for items and production. So even like for something simple like getting your lawn mowed, you know, my first job per se was going around my neighborhood and walking dogs. I was like, I'm a kid, like a few things I can do that I know that I can do financially and like entrepreneurially. One was walking dogs, and a couple other like get rich quick scheme type things. But thankfully I really only had one family reach out to me about walking dog, and they lived in a cul-de-sac below me, and they really, you know, helped teach me a lot about life and get me comfortable with my capabilities. And I have to, you know, thank God for the fact that they went out on a limb and trusted me with their animals, first off, that they cared so deeply about. And they wanted to look within their community to hire someone. And I think that when we look towards community, we need to be looking at how we can be involved with our community. How can we find purpose with our neighbors? And with a tribe, you had the medicine man, you had the hunters, you had the gatherers, you had the food preparers. Everyone had a purpose. And right now, I think a lot of communities don't have that communal aspect where they have purpose with each other. And to me, a community is centered on purpose, because I want, you know, an economy should be circular. You shouldn't have to reach out so far for the items that you need on a local level. And the issues that we're seeing now is, you know, we go, instead of going, and, you know, albeit that sometimes it's more expensive, but instead of going to the local carpenter or the local furniture store and things of that nature, we hop on towards Walmart because it is less expensive and not everyone has the financial capabilities to pay for their friends or their neighbors' work. But by shifting the gears and really shifting the importance of it and realizing how important it is to keep your money in your economy, in your community, you will see growth, because communities rely on funding from outside sources, especially with politics. You have people who run into politics who are not from those communities but claim they want to help those communities they've never visited. And it's very difficult to wrap your head around that, because what do they know? How can they fulfill the needs of a community that they've never experienced and don't live in. And so we really need to shift our gears towards bringing in money into our communities, because not that money is the greatest, you know, money can be very popular.
It's just a vehicle.
Yeah,
it's just an energy.
It is, you know. I've actually had someone tell me that a product was going to cost me 12 energy coins one day, and I thought that was super adorable. But we, you know, it is the energy that our government understands. You know, not that it's amazing or beneficial, but we can't, without anarchy and complete obliteration, we can't really just break down the machine. We have to change the machine from the inside with hope, with earnest goals and desires, with our community, change our community. And we focus a lot on macro level things, like even when our government, we focus on the federal government so much that we don't realize how much power the states and the cities have. And we really need to be looking micro on what we can do micro, because that's where we're going to make the most monumental change, when we can go outside and our neighbors are like, thank you so much for that. You know, that's such a wholesome, positive boost of energy. And you really get to see how you're affecting your community on that level.
I love that. So for you, community is tribe. It's a place where people can live in their purpose, and essentially everybody is serving everybody. Mm-hmm. I love that. I love that. Well, I can't thank you enough for your time. Vibe Hive thanks you for your time. And we're going to put in the show notes where they can find you, but it's rosemansremedies.com, ROSEMANSREMEDIES.com. And your Instagram, Flora Poppy, is that the best one?
Flora Poppy is my personal, and so that's Flora, FLORA_Poppy. And I just post a lot about plants and life and positive energy.
And it's Poppy, PAPI.
Yeah. And if they want to find out more about Roseman's Remedies specifically, at Roseman's Remedies, ROSEMANSREMEDIES is the best way.
Awesome. Well, cool. Well, we'll get all of that in the show notes as well. And thank you so much for being here and for giving us double your time since my computer died. 'Tis the life.
It's been a blessing, and you know, I can't stop smiling because of all the energy we've just been sharing. So
I know, I love it, and I can't wait. I'll see you on Friday as you share some more knowledge on our young budding Vibe Hive creators at our art camp, and they're so excited. And we'll see if the humidity works out for the project at hand.
I'll be prepared either way.
Exactly. Well, awesome. We'll have an awesome rest of the day, Martin, and see you next time.
Rachel. Bye.
Bye.